So let us unveil the powers of the Data Protection Board of India, the board constituted to implement and help organizations implement compliance around data privacy. Welcome to my YouTube channel where you daily see new content on data privacy. And as I mentioned, we are going to talk about the powers of the Data Protection Board of India. So what is Data Protection Board of India? A central government constituent body created to help organizations implement data privacy and compliance with the Indian DPDP Act 2023. It's a government regulated body. We saw the brief details on the overview about the same in our previous video. The primary objective of establishing this body is to enforce privacy laws in India, to protect the rights of the data principles, the rights of the citizens towards controlling their own personal information and avoiding a misuse of their personal information, to oversee the data processing activities and practices that are performed by the data fiduciaries. What are they doing? How are they doing that? Are they keeping themselves secure enough to ensure that the personal data of a data principal is not leaked out, not misused? To accept and resolve the principal's complaint, right? There could be cases where I am not satisfied with the way my information is handled by a processing agency, a data fiduciary, and I go back to them and complain, and they don't respond me the way I am expecting them to. It might be my mistake expecting too much, but it could be their mistake also not responding. So where do I go? So I can go to the Data Protection Board of India. And Data Protection Board of India is expected to be very, very fair and transparent, explain me where is my mistake, what is wrong in my expectation, or explain the fiduciary how to set it right, and if required, if deemed, depending on the nature of offense, penalize. So that's what is the power of Data Protection Board of India. It also, of course, has to ensure that you are compliant with the Indian DPDP Act 2023 if you are handling personal data of an Indian citizen and processing it by either of the 5 parameters. You are collecting personal data, you are storing personal data, you are using personal data, you are disclosing to third parties, or you are even destroying personal data of any Indian citizen in digitized format, or collected in written format, manual format, traditional ways, and then digitized, then you are liable to be compliant with the DPDP Act 2023. And here are the 2 important things. What about the situation where the Data Protection Board of India comes to know about a breach that has happened from any data fiduciary or any data processor? They are supposed to quickly inquire into the personal data breach. They have to see what has gone wrong, why has that gone wrong, what could be the possible remedy or the mitigation measures. We have seen this internationally. For example, an organization is processing personal information and there's a breach of the credit card information of customers they have, right? So a quick remedy or mitigation measure could be to immediately inform those customers also, apart from talking to the board and checking how do you make it secure for the next time, but at least inform those customers also so that they can get their cards blocked and their cards are not misused. They don't lose money because of the breach. So the board is expected to inquire into a breach when they come to know about the breach, even about the consent manager. A proper consent manager was not there, or he didn't observe his duties well. What are the duties of a consent manager? He is supposed to take a consent, and to take a consent he is supposed to properly explain you the purpose of the consent. How is and why is he going to process your information? What would be the outcome? So if he hasn't obtained your consent and processed your information, that could be another that's actually considered a breach, right? So if the breach has happened because consent was not properly taken, then also they have to investigate into it, collect all the information, based on that information direct any remedial mitigation measures, and finally impose penalties. Impose penalties as per what the law says, 200 to 250 crore rupees depending on the severity of the breach. Similarly, there could be a case when they receive a complaint from a data principal. They have to receive it, right, if required, and breach was not even notified to the board. So then there's a different level of penalty if the breach was not even notified to the board. So data principal goes to the board and says there's a breach, and the board says I'm not aware of it, right? There could be that situation. So the penalty in that case is to be imposed. Data subjects' rights are not respected. I went there and I asked to access my information, and the fiduciary said I don't allow you to do that, right? I went there and I said I want my information to be modified, The fiduciary said, I'm not going to allow that. These are the various rights that data subjects have. And if the principal or if the fiduciary and the processors are not allowing that, you can complain to the Data Protection Board. Consent not taken, you can complain to the Data Protection Board of India. And the board is expected to collect details of the complaint, summon the fiduciary and take their feedback. It has to be, you can't take a decision or pass a judgment without knowing both the sides. So they can ask them as to what is the reason. It could be a logical reason. Come back to the principal, explain it to them. It could be an illogical reason. It could be an actual breach. It could be an actual reason why they have not respected the data subject rights. For example, a legal matter is pending respect to that particular project, and the court has directed that the data subject right is not to be honored. Generally, that won't happen. But if someone comes with right to erasure, and on that project the court has asked not to erase the data, then that would happen, right? So the fiduciary can explain and get rid of any penalties, liabilities, or even being called as a breach. So the board has to therefore investigate it into detail and impose penalties if it is required, if they are able to find that it's a proper breach, or intimate both the parties about the real situation and avoid such breach situations. Provide guidelines to avoid any future reoccurrence of such breaches or complaints. What are the key functions of the board? It's pretty understood. They have to receive the complaints. If I go by the slides, as a supervisory role, they have to monitor that all the organizations handling personal information of any citizen of India in digital form are compliant with the DPDP Act 2023. They are the enforcement authorities. They have to enforce that the compliance is there. They have to handle the complaints of the principal and the fiduciary's concerns regarding those complaints. It could be vice versa. Fiduciary can come up and say, I'm not able to understand or control this, so they have to answer that as well. They have to ensure that there is a transparent dispute resolution, and they take the advisory role of issuing the guidelines around how you can make yourself compliant with the Privacy Acts, and they need to define the best practices in managing the data protection around personal data of Indian citizens in digitized formats. So these are the powers and the key functions of the Data Protection Board. We will continue discussing more detail of the working of Data Protection Board in subsequent videos. So subscribe to my channel. Share your feedback in the comment section. It's really very helpful. And if you like this video, press the like and the bell icon. Thank you.